Hello everyone, tonight let's step beyond the grand pronouncements of kings and the thundering hooves of knights, and instead peer into the bustling, demanding, and often unseen lives of those who truly made a medieval castle function day in and day out, the garrison and the myriad servants. Forget the simple, iconic image of a solitary knight. Tonight we'll explore the complex, interconnected community that breathed life into those imposing stone walls, all without the modern conveniences of plumbing, electricity, or instant communication. The castle as a living organism, a city in miniature. A medieval castle, especially a large one, wasn't just a fortress. It was a self-contained, living organism, a city in miniature, brimming with hundreds, sometimes even thousands of people. From the highest-ranking captain of the guard to the lowest scullion, every individual had a specific role, their lives intertwined in a vast, practical web of duty and service. This was a tightly controlled environment where discipline was paramount, and every resource, especially food and water, was carefully managed. The massive stone walls that protected the lord and his family also contained a dense, interdependent human ecosystem, constantly humming with activity, a complex society with its own hierarchies, dramas, and daily rhythms. It was a place of immense power, but also of ceaseless human effort. The steel backbone, the garrison, defenders of the realm at the core of the castle, as very existence was its garrison. The disciplined soldiers responsible for its defense, its security, and the unwavering maintenance of order within its formidable walls. This wasn't just a handful of noble knights. It was a diverse, well-drilled force, meticulously trained and constantly vigilant, truly embodying the castle's martial spirit. Knights and men-at-arms, while the lord himself and his most direct, loyal knights formed the elite, the gilded tip of the military spear. Many castles housed a substantial number of professional men-at-arms. These might be lesser nobles seeking advancement, experienced veteran soldiers who had served through many grueling campaigns, or even highly skilled commoners who had sworn loyalty and earned their place through sheer prowess and demonstrable fighting ability. They formed the heavy infantry, trained in brutal, close-quarters combat with heavy longswords, crushing axes, and thrusting spears. Crucially, many could also serve as formidable mounted fighters when needed. Their lives were utterly dedicated to martial prowess, an endless cycle of rigorous training. They were constantly drilling in the castle bailey, practicing complex formations, and sparring relentlessly with blunted weapons to keep their skills razor-sharp. Imagine the rhythmic thud of their armored footwork on the packed earth, the grunts of their physical exertion, and the incessant, metallic clang of their practice weapons echoing across the courtyard. A constant, sobering reminder of the castle's primary, often grim, purpose. They would share stories of past campaigns around a flickering fire, tales of heroism and horror, cementing their camaraderie. Archers and crossbowmen. The longbowmen and crossbowmen were the castle's crucial ranged defense, the sharp teeth of its outer defenses, stationed strategically within arrow slits in towering keeps on narrow battlements, high above the ground and at fortified gatehouses. They were capable of raining down a devastating whistling hail of arrows or bolts upon any attacking force, often from hundreds of yards away. Their training involved endless target practice, honing their accuracy and speed, building incredible upper body strength from drawing powerful bows. Imagine the distinctive powerful twang of a longbow string, the sharp click of a crossbow mechanism as a bolt was loaded with a winding crank, followed by the terrifying whiz of projectiles cutting through the air before embedding themselves in wooden targets or, God forbid, human flesh. These vital soldiers were often commoners, plucked from the ranks of skilled hunters or farmers, but their specialized skill made them absolutely invaluable defenders. Literally, the difference between life and death for the castle. Spearmen and billmen. These were the most numerous of the infantry, forming the solid, unwavering core of the castle's defense, often comprising the bulk of the foot soldiers. armed with long, sharp spears or formidable billhooks. They were the last line of defense. They were ready to hold breaches in the walls, reinforce vulnerable points along the battlements, and engage attackers in desperate, brutal hand-to-hand combat within the castle's inner defenses if the outer walls fell. Their training was less about individual prowess and more about forming an impenetrable wall of steel and wood, acting as a unified, disciplined unit, a human shield. Their strength lay in their numbers and their cohesion. Watchmen and sentries, day and night, through all weathers, searing summer heat, biting winter winds, or driving rain, watchmen would stand lonely guard on the highest towers, battlements, and gatehouses. Their eyes were constantly scanning the horizon for any sign of trouble. A distant dust cloud on the road, a suspicious movement in the surrounding forest, the smoke of an approaching army. Their calls, sharp whistles, or horn blasts would instantly alert the entire castle, transforming it from a bustling, somewhat relaxed home into a bristling, armed fortress in mere minutes. There were no cameras, no motion sensors, no radar, only sharp, experienced eyes and highly attuned ears, constantly vigilant against the unseen threats of the medieval world. Their solitary duty was a heavy one, demanding immense focus and endurance. The captain of the guard, an experienced, loyal knight or a grizzled veteran soldier, perhaps with scars testifying to past battles, he was the undisputed commanding officer of the entire garrison. He was responsible for organizing drills, assigning patrols, ensuring the meticulous maintenance of all equipment, and upholding overall discipline among the men. He was the Lord's right hand in all matters of defense, order, and security within the castle walls, his authority second only to the Lord himself. He knew every man under his command, their strengths and weaknesses, and held their lives in his hands during a siege. The garrison's life was one of strict routine, intense physical demands, and constant, often tedious, readiness. Their off-duty time might involve meticulously maintaining their weapons and armor, engaging in friendly, gambling with dice, or sharing exaggerated stories of past campaigns and battles around a flickering fire. Their camaraderie forged in shared hardship and the omnipresent threat of war. They were a band of brothers, their lives intertwined by duty and danger. The unseen army, castle servants, the keepers of life beyond the soldiers, a vast, often unseen, army of servants tirelessly kept the castle functioning, attending to every conceivable need of the Lord, his family, and the hungry garrison. Their lives were defined by endless, repetitive tasks, often unseen and unthanked by the higher-ups, but absolutely vital for the castle's survival and comfort. Without them, the fortress would grind to a halt. The kitchen staff. This was a bustling, smoky, and often unbearably hot hub of constant activity, truly the engine room of the castle, responsible for the most fundamental need, food. The master cook, a figure of considerable importance and skill, presided over a small army of scullions, bakers, turnspits, and servers. Imagine the enormous open fireplaces, the vast cauldrons simmering with thick potage and stews, the constant chopping of vegetables and kneading of dough. They prepared multiple meals a day for hundreds of people, from simple garrison rations to lavish, multi-course feasts for the Lord and his guests, all without refrigeration, modern stoves, or even running water directly in the kitchen. Every single ingredient had to be hauled from storerooms, every fire meticulously tended, every dish prepared painstakingly by hand. The smells would be a rich, complex mixture of roasting meat, wood smoke, simmering herbs, and fresh bread, a sensory overload. Household servants. These were the personal attendants and upkeep staff. They included chamberlains, who managed the Lord's personal chambers, his wardrobe, and often his private finances, a position of great trust, laundresses, who toiled in primitive laundries, oiling and beating clothes in crude lye-filled water. Often by a stream outside the walls, A physically demanding and thankless job. Cleaners who swept and dusted endlessly stable hands and brooms. Their days were filled with endless, often unpleasant chores, from making straw beds and emptying chamber pots, to polishing armor until it gleamed and mucking out stables with shovels and pitchforks. A never-ending battle against dirt and waste. Craftsmen and artisans. Many self-sufficient castles housed resident craftsmen who were absolutely essential, particularly for long periods of siege when outside supplies were cut off. A blacksmith was indispensable, his forge a constant source of clang and heat, constantly forging and repairing tools, weapons, armor, and hinges for gates and doors. The carpenter built and repaired everything from furniture and roofing timbers to crude ladders for siege defenses and terrifying siege engines. The mason maintained the massive stone walls and buildings, constantly patching and repairing any cracks or damage from weather or attack. The tailor would mend and make clothes, especially for the noble family, using precious fabrics. These were highly skilled individuals whose workshops would be hives of noise and activity, their specialized knowledge crucial for the castle's self-sufficiency. Stewards and bailiffs. While not strictly servants in the same domestic way as cooks or grooms, these were crucial administrative figures, the bureaucratic backbone of the castle's economy. The steward managed the entire household, its complex finances, and all the castle's supplies, from vast food stores to weapon inventories. He was the chief administrator. The bailiff oversaw the castle's lands outside the walls, collecting rents from peasants and organizing agricultural work, ensuring the castle's sustenance through its surrounding domain. They were typically literate men, often managing vast resources without calculators or computers, relying on detailed ledgers, quill pens, and their own sharp minds for complex calculations and record-keeping. Their work was vital to keeping the castle fed and funded. Pages and squires. As we've discussed earlier, these young boys were also technically servants, albeit privileged ones, learning the ropes, running errands, assisting knights, and beginning their own arduous training. They provided invaluable assistance while simultaneously undergoing their rigorous education in chivalry and warfare. Dreaming of the day they would earn their spurs. Daily rhythm and challenges. Life without modernity. A castle's daily rhythm was relentless, a continuous demanding cycle of activity from before dawn until deep into the night. It began before dawn with the solemn changing of the guard and the sounds of the stables awakening, continuing through the structured work of the day, punctuated by the church bells marking the hours, and only truly winding down after sunset when darkness descended, making movement difficult and unsafe. Water and sanitation. Access to clean water was a constant, grueling challenge. Water had to be laboriously drawn from deep wells within the castle walls, a physically demanding task for water carriers, or hauled from outside sources during peacetime. Waste was handled through guardrails, or simply collected in buckets and removed, often leading to unpleasant odors that permeated the air. Unhygienic conditions, and contributing directly to the rapid spread of disease within the confined spaces of the castle. The stench could be pervasive. Light and warmth. After dark, light came only from flickering torches mounted on walls, simple rushlights, and expensive tallow candles. These offered limited, smoky illumination, casting long, dancing shadows. Heat was provided by vast fireplaces, often inefficient and smoky, leaving many areas of the castle cold and damp, especially in the bitter depths of winter. The lord's noble chambers might have a roaring, comforting fire, but servants' quarters and barracks would be perpetually chilly and drafty. Food preservation. Without refrigeration, the castle relied entirely on massive storerooms filled with heavily salted meat and fish, smoked hams, dried vegetables and fruits, and huge barrels of ale and wine. Managing these supplies, meticulously tracking consumption and preventing spoilage, especially during a long siege when no new supplies could enter, was a monumental logistical challenge that could mean the difference between survival and starvation for everyone inside. Internal communication. Within the sprawling, often confusing castle layout, communication relied on shouted commands, the distinctive sounds of bells, and runners moving messages swiftly by foot through corridors, up winding stairs, and across courtyards. External communication was even more precarious, depending entirely on mounted messengers, making it incredibly slow, vulnerable to attack or interception, and often unreliable. News from the outside world could take weeks or even months to arrive, filtered through many tellings, often unreliable and prone to exaggeration. Life in the castle, a world of interdependence. Life within the medieval castle, for both the hardened garrison and the vast array of tireless servants, was a world of intense, absolute interdependence. Each person's role, no matter how seemingly small or thankless, was vital to the survival and smooth functioning of the whole. The strength of the stone walls meant little without the vigilance of the watchmen scanning the horizon, the sharp skill of the archers defending the battlements, the tireless diligence of the cooks preparing sustenance, and the meticulous reliability of the stewards managing precious supplies. It was a hierarchical but profoundly communal existence, often harsh and demanding, but offering a degree of security and a powerful sense of belonging in a turbulent, dangerous world. Everyone knew their place, and everyone contributed, a human machine working in unison. The castle was their entire world, their protector and their demanding master. The castle was a powerful, immutable symbol of feudal order and authority, a visible statement of power, but its true, enduring strength lay not just in its unyielding stone, but in the hundreds of human lives meticulously organized, disciplined, and dedicated to its very purpose. They lived, worked, and endured without the comforts or technologies we possess, relying on their individual skills, their collective effort, and their shared purpose to maintain the very heart of medieval power and order, a human testament to resilience and collaboration. So as you drift off to sleep, perhaps you can hear the faint clang of a blacksmith's hammer echoing from the smithy, the distant shout of a watchman from a towering parapet, or the murmur of countless lives moving through the ancient stone halls. Imagine a world where every task was hands-on, every resource precious, and every person was a vital, irreplaceable thread in the strong, enduring fabric of a medieval castle. Good night.